welcome to Too Fond of Books. My name is Janelle, and this is my Booktube Spin number 6 list. First, I need to explain this. I'm filming this on Tuesday because we are preparing for what the Weather Channel is calling the worst blizzard in decades. Yes, you heard me correctly. The worst blizzard in decades on April the 12th. I think today's the 12th. There you go. Other areas of the province are expecting 50 centimeters of snow. That's right, 50 centimeters of snow. Our area here in the city, we're expecting far less, maybe 10, 15 centimeters of snow. But in the middle of April, that's still a lot. And they're saying, like, be prepared. There is no travel. There will likely be power outages. So get food and medicine in. Like, this is insanity, right? Anyway, so I thought because of that, I better film this early so that I can have it up in time for the spin. The spin is happening on April 15th, and I will find out which 2 books from this list I will have to read by June the 30th. Now, this time around, I decided to go with categories. I haven't done that in a long time. The first category is true crime. So we have The Devil in the White City by Erik Larsen. This is number 1 on my list. Murder, Magic, and Madness at the Fair That Changed America. This is the fair in Chicago, 1893, and there was a serial killer loose at the fair, or at least in Chicago. Next up, we have The Scalpel of Scotland Yard, The Life of Sir Bernard Spilsbury by Douglas G. Browne and E.V. Tullett. This is, I think I'm maybe pushing it by putting this in true crime, but Sir Bernard Spilsbury was the pathologist, the guy who did all the autopsies and stuff during the early 1900s. And yeah, I'm really excited to dive into this. Number 3, Murder at Wrotham Hill by Diana Souhami. I like the cover of this, and the back is great too. So this is after World War II, why did one more violent death matter? So this was about a woman who was killed in 1946 in Kent. A lone woman looks to hitch a lift to London. A lorry driver stops. The encounter ends in murder. Number 4, The Suspicions of Mr. Witcher, or The Murder at Road Hill House by Kate Summerscale. This is about a murder that happened in 1860, also in Kent, interestingly enough. And then number 5, and the last in my category of true crime, we have The Great Pearl Heist by Molly Caldwell Crosby. This is London's greatest thief and Scotland Yard's hunt for the world's most valuable necklace. This happens in London in 1913. All right, the second category is history. This is also something different that I'm doing. I don't know that I've had a ton of nonfiction on my Booktube spin lists. So half my categories, half the books are nonfiction. First up is City of Fortune by Roger Crowley. How Venice Ruled the Seas. This one is really interesting. I'm interested in the history of Venice. I find the city fascinating. This is a look at the full arc of the Venetian imperial saga from the ill-fated Fourth Crusade, which culminates in the sacking of Constantinople in 1204, to the Ottoman-Venetian War of 1499 to 1503, which sees the Ottoman Turks supplant the Venetians as the preeminent naval power in the Mediterranean. So it's not strictly about Venice, the city itself, but about Venice and how Venice ruled the seas. So yeah. Next up, this is number 7, is The Princes in the Tower by Alison Weir. I enjoy Alison Weir. I've read a couple of her nonfiction books, and this one is about a fascinating piece of history. So this is set in 1483. Number 8 is Inside Dickens' London by Michael Paterson. A fascinating insight into London in the mid-1800s. It explores the city as it was then, a dangerous and sometimes brutal place, by drawing on Dickens' own descriptions of the city. And then number 9 is Elizabeth by David Starkey, The Struggle for the Throne. So this is a young Elizabeth and how she ends up making it to the throne. So yeah, I'm really interested in that one. And then number 10, we're sticking with Tudor history for number 10, and this is The Last Days of Henry VIII by Robert Hutchinson. I've read another book by Robert Hutchinson, and I really like him as a non-fiction history writer. After 35 years as an absolute monarch, King Henry VIII was a hideously obese, black-hearted old man rarely seen in public. Robert Hutchinson's account of Henry's final years includes many startling revelations. He has unearthed death warrants, confessions, desperate pleas for clemency, as well as evidence of blackmail. There are even the lost love letters between Henry's last queen and the Lord High Admiral. So that's a really interesting focus in on the last years of Henry VIII. Okay, next category is historical fiction. And number 11 is The Last Bookshop in London by Madeline Martin. This has been sitting on my shelf for a little while, and I'm excited to get into this. This is World War II historical fiction, but it's set in bookshops. Perfect. Inspired by the true World War II history of the few bookshops to survive the Blitz. The Last Bookshop in London is a timeless story of wartime loss, love, and the enduring power of literature. Number 12 is The Painted Girls by Cathy Marie Buchanan. This is set in Paris in 1878. A gripping novel set in Belle Epoque Paris and inspired by the real-life model for Degas' Little Dancer, aged 14, and by the era's most notorious criminal trials. Also, can I just show you the end papers? Aren't those pretty? So that's 2 historical fiction based on real events. Next up is Scaramouche by Raphael Sabatini. This is a book that was written in the 20s, 1923, I think. Yes, and it's a romance of the French Revolution. The French Revolution is a period of history that I find very fascinating, so I'm really excited. I do really want to get to this one. And this one has a very famous first line, and I believe that this first line is on Sabatini's gravestone. He was born with a gift of laughter and a sense that the world was mad. So that's Scaramouche. Number 14 is The Museum Guard by Howard Norman. This is a Canadian author and a Canadian book set in Halifax. Defoe Russet, orphaned by age 9 by a Zeppelin crash, has grown up in the care of his magnetic uncle Edward. Now, 25, he works as a guard at the Glass Museum in Halifax. But caught up in a tormenting love affair with Imogen Linney, the caretaker of the small Jewish cemetery, he finds himself unexpectedly catapulted into the horrors of war. So this is set in Halifax, which is in one of our maritime provinces on the East Coast, and during 1938. And then the last in the historical fiction category, number 15 on the list, is Belgravia by Julian Fellows. This is set in 1815. On the evening of June 15th, 1850, the great and the good of British society have gathered in Brussels at what is to become one of the most tragic parties in history, the Duchess of Richmond's ball. For this is the eve of the Battle of Waterloo, and many of the handsome young men attending the ball will find themselves the very next day on the battlefield. So again, another historical fiction based on true events. Okay, and then my last category is classics. And so number 16, we have Barchester Towers by Anthony Trollope. This is my Oxford World's Classic edition, which I love. It's tiny, but I love it. And look at the bare paperback. So this is the second book in his Barchester Chronicles, and I've already read it, but this is a reread for me because I want to continue in the series. Number 17 is Constable of the Tower by W.H. Ainsworth. This is a historical romance published in the 1800s. I don't actually have the specific date for when this book was published, but it's set following the death of Henry VIII. And then number 18 is King Solomon's Mines by, hang on, I'll get it, H. Rider Haggard. This was also published originally in the 1800s, 1885. Dedication. This faithful but unpretending record of a remarkable adventure is hereby respectfully dedicated by the narrator, Alan Quatermain, to all the big and little boys who read it. So this is an adventure story set in Egypt, and pretty famous. There's some famous movies that were made of that story, so I'm excited to get to that soon. Number 19 is Poor Miss Finch by Wilkie Collins. When Madame Pratolungo answers an advertisement to be a lady's companion, she little knows the circumstances that will lead to a tale of love, deception, and heartache. The lady whose companion she becomes is Lucilla Finch, young, beautiful, and blind from infancy. Lucilla's happiness seems assured when she falls in love with Oscar Dubourg, and he proposes marriage. But Oscar has an identical twin who sees a way to win Lucilla's love for himself. And then number 20 is Lady Audley's Secret by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. This is a famous sensational novel from 1862. This book subtly undermined the Victorian myth that female self-assertion was a form of insanity. So there you have it. That is my list of 20. On the 15th, when Rick spins the wheel, I will come back and pin a comment and let you know which of the 2 books on here get chosen. I will also link to Rick's channel down below to his Booktube spin announcement, so that you can see what it's all about. It's just a fun way to read some books from our own shelves that may have been neglected or forgotten about. So there you have it. That is my list of 20 books for Booktube spin list number 6. Let me know in the comment section down below if you have read any of these 20 books, and also which 2 books do you hope get chosen in the spin. And I will see you for another video soon.